Well, welcome, folks, to the first virtual um, RPD show. We're making history here, and I have the pleasure of being joined by my good friend Abstract. He's a recording artist, really good guy, one of my favorite people in the music industry. Really talented individual, but also even a better person. I can't wait to chop it up with him. Yeah, I'm really excited. We kind of just we talked last night. I was like, let's do this. So here we are. Should be joining any moment now. Um, I guess while I'm here, thank you to the good folks at Liquid IV for sending me a bunch, a little care package, keep me hydrated on and off the mic. More specifically, shout out to Bobby Hobart. He's the man over there. If you're trying to stay hydrated and all that, he's your guy. Well, looks like Abstract is about to join us here, so let's get right into it. What up? Uh-oh. You're connecting to audio and can't hear you yet. Oh, no. Oh, okay. You're connected.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Welcome.
Oh, yeah.
We finally did it after a few minutes here of tinkering.
Hell yeah.
We're here, thankfully.
The Right Pod Show.
Yeah, the RPD show, the first virtual version of it. So, dude, thanks for being
Let's
brave.
go.
Thanks for obviously, catching up with your boy here. So I can't thank you enough.
Hell yeah. I had to turn my brightness up so you could see me.
Yeah, hiding in the dark,
It's
Um,
cold and stormy out here right now. It's just dark and ominous.
yeah. How are you well, for those that don't know, Abstract recently moved to Nashville, Tennessee. And
Glad I did.
how do you like it out there so far?
I like it a lot. It's definitely not in full swing. It's there's like live music and bars and stuff like that, which is starting to come back, which is really nice. But hearing from people who've been here a while, they're like, yeah, it's not the same animal it normally is. So I'm looking forward to it actually being, in full swing.
Yeah, I can only imagine, just because there's that place just has so much to offer.
Yeah, no, it's definitely lively when COVID isn't, proliferating itself through the streets.
Yeah, that's how are you holding up through COVID? I mean, what a
I'm
strange year.
good. Yeah, my year has been strange in a lot of ways, but it's I think it was very helpful with completing my newest album. I think that was like, especially I was up in Wyoming, and so with being in a very small town and with COVID going on, it kind of forced me to be like, well, what else can you do? So I finished like 80% of my album within like 2 months of being up in Wyoming. Um, with COVID kind of pushing me to be like, all right, don't get sidetracked, just kind of lock in and, get it done. So I think that was super helpful. Um, Definitely sucks. My whole July tour got canceled. Um, it
Such a
was supposed
bummer.
to be like, yeah, it was supposed to be around the time of the album drop. So that was pretty heartbreaking because that would have been my first full, just me headlining US tour. But, things happen and everything is, even if it sucks, it's getting you to where you need to be. So it is what it is.
That's a great attitude to have. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people, I think, well, me and my friends have been saying, just like, at least I've been telling them that someone's been affected one way or another by this, whether it's financially, emotionally, physically, because they got ill, or just all the above. It's been rough, but I can't. I mean, I bet you were just so stoked about that July tour, and then just for you to um, have that canceled. It's like, damn, like, come on,
Yeah.
life, throw me a bone.
There's a lot of people who don't know or don't understand the ripple effect of all of it. Like even people may not know, but I do a lot of merchandise and a lot of merchandise sales between designing and sending things out. Some of my stuff because of COVID has taken there's this girl Leah in Switzerland, and her stuff took 3 months because of COVID. Like
Holy
it's
hell.
nuts, and like everything's been affected. I'm like, people email me, they're like, "What's going on?" I'm like, "Dude, I don't know what to tell you." Like I don't know if you've seen that like a global pandemic's going on, but it kind of affects everything. Um, and just people don't think about that. They're not like, it's just like, oh, it's a postal system, should be pretty normal. But no, everything has been affected. You've been affected in some way. There's all this domino effect to it and a ripple effect of all of it. Everything's been kind of turned on its head, I guess.
Yeah, I mean the whole world has basically changed. I mean, you're seeing a lot of companies even just go virtually, where it's like you don't even have to come into the office anymore, or that won't be a thing going forward. Or I mean, who knows about the concert space, but just like events, you know, um, movie
You know,
theaters,
I've talked to, yeah, I've talked to a lot of people about this. I even was talking about this before COVID, and then COVID happened, and I'm like, well, maybe we're just getting ushered faster towards what I've always thought was going to happen. Like, companies don't need brick and mortar freaking buildings anymore. Like, the amount of money that they have to pay to withhold these crazy buildings and conference rooms and all that stuff. Like, I think this is a big thing that's going to show a lot of big companies that, hey, this is an overhead we don't need. Um, all our workers have been working from home, and if you take the big brick and mortar store out of the equation, how much all these big companies are money motivated. So of course they're going to go, hey, this is something that we no longer kind of need. Um, so we might as well kind of, and it may be that COVID ushers us into that quicker than we would have without it. Um, I don't know. I think people are like, oh, there's a lot of change going on, but I think we're yet to see really the full impact of that. There's always the bomb drops, and then the sonic like shockwave hits us, however long after COVID, and that's where the real change comes in. Everyone feels that, and yeah, things are different and things have changed, but we really have not seen the long-term effects yet, and it's hard to tell what those will be.
I completely agree. I mean, this is just like the beginning. I mean, whether they, find a vaccine that just cures it, but like at this point, how many people trust that, you know, and,
Dude, they tried to do it in Russia. Everyone's like, no, we're not taking that. I
yeah,
wouldn't trust Putin to give me a freaking vaccine either, but
yeah. I mean, even here, I mean, it's like, I don't even know, like, I think I'm good without it, but never say never, but just, it's wild. Like, there's just, I mean, you don't know really what's going in your body, and
and we
just,
don't know what's going on too. Even Nashville just had this whole thing come out that the mayor like covered up all these like the statistics of the actual people being affected by bars and restaurants being opened up. The numbers were super low, but they didn't report it. They kept it super down low, didn't even talk about it. So it's just like, what's really going on, and you always got to think what's in. I'm not a, I'm not, for anyone listening, I'm not left or right. I'm in the middle. I find my own ideals and my own beliefs, and I weigh it out for myself. Um, but when you have something like that where the numbers are being, manipulated or not talked about, or you know, of course the news is going to proliferate to us how freaking crazy it is outside to keep our eyes glued and keep us all scared and trigger our human instinct of self-preservation to keep us glued to our TVs. Um, but like really at the end of the day, is what we've done really worth the consequences? I don't know.
I think that's a question for a different day. I mean,
Yeah,
but I mean, we say that, but also then it's like, well, we need to act now,
yeah,
because there's just so much. I mean, not just with the pandemic and like the racial and social injustices, and then the climate. The
yeah,
the Earth is like falling apart. The
yeah.
It's a lot going on, and it's a lot to process. I mean, everyone, the cliche thing is everyone says, oh, this is going to be in the history books one day. But it's like, if we even have history books, by then it will all be Kindles and iPads and whatnot.
Hmm. Constantly changing information too. That's the crazy thing is like, there's stuff that's written in history books that is like, you know, written in ink and it's there, but how many times, I mean, we get really crazy with this, but if it's all in digital, like how many times can that be amended and changed? And, history is decided by the authors of it. Um, and if it is all digital, it's like how much will it be amended and changed? And will it even be the same, concrete fact that we even grew up having with textbooks, if it's so easily manipulated in the digital space, who knows?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, there's just so much false information out there too. Like, just, I'm not trying to say that I don't believe what's being reported, but it's just, I think it came out maybe a month or two ago that, like, it's I can't even tell you who said it, and I don't even know if it's true, but it was that a lot of they were like lying about the death number because the people that did die, they had preconceived conditions, and then like they're just like, oh, it was COVID, but it really wasn't, because they were terminally ill or had a very serious health problem. But
That's
yeah,
the thing. The way it works is I talked to my sister about this because she's in medical school, and it's not like it was catered to a pandemic, but the rules are in place to actually service the idea of something like this. Like you basically get a bump in your funding for how many coronavirus cases you take on. So
yeah, I
um,
heard about that.
it's like, who knows, if they want to bump in their funding, it's like, oh yeah, that was a COVID case. Like even if it was like they had cancer and AIDS and everything, if they had some COVID, it's like, oh, that's a COVID death.
Yeah, which is
But
so messed up.
yeah, but people want to say that like, oh, it was done because of no, it's just like that's the rules that have been in place. That's the way it's always been. If whatever the highly circulating contagion is, if you report it as such, then you get that, bonus, I guess. It's just the way it's always been. But during a pandemic, the true repercussions of that come out.
Which is wild. I mean,
Yeah.
we're so greedy, you know.
Yeah, dude.
It's sad, but on to happier things here.
Yeah. I mean, let me just say this though too. It's crazy that like the higher ups, like the biggest people, like the richest people have made the most money off of this. While like
Yeah,
everyone
Bezos.
got like, yeah, everyone got like, what was it? 1,200, 16, what was it, the check?
It was like
I forget.
1,200, 16, something like that. I don't.
Dude, and done so terribly. Like some people didn't receive theirs. Some of
Oh,
it was
I
there
never
was
got
like
mine. I'll tell you
there's
that.
like it was sent to dead people, dude. They didn't check in with anybody and were like, yo, like where do we send this? We want to get you your money. No, they just freaking took it into their own hands and were like, you know, I think it was reported like something like $1 billion was sent to dead people. Like what?
What good is that
Why?
doing?
Yeah, and it's like why not just take the time to actually contact your civilians and be like, where do you want this sent? We're trying to help you. It was just like, oh yeah, we did it, and it's coming to you somehow, and we hope it actually makes it. Like what?
Unreal.
Oh god.
Yeah, that's
No, let's move on because
yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
dark.
No, that was a great little discussion, but
Yeah.
life moves on, and we're on to brighter things. I think. Hopefully, we're on the other side of it. How are you doing though? Like, how's Nashville? Like, how's Luna? How's your dog? Are you
She's good.
you're up there by yourself, right?
Yeah, I'm solo chilling. I mean, I got people here who I've slowly been meeting or mutual friends. Jonas's manager Sam is out here.
Oh, hell yeah.
Um, he has his company Innovo. Um, my friend James Rose, who's really good friends with Mike Squires. We never met in person, but he moved out here like a week after I did. And he's like a songwriter. So we've been becoming really good friends, and that's awesome. And we've been meeting other songwriters and people and musicians through, either writers rounds or just one of the guys I've met would just go to this place across the street from my apartment that has live music most days of the week, and I'll play there a bunch. And so show up enough time, he's like, "What's up?" Like, and so we became friends with him. It's really cool. It's a As people may not know, I'm mainly a hip hop artist, but um, I like a lot of different genres. I kind of play around in a lot of different sandboxes, I guess. Um, so Nashville felt like a challenge to me. It felt like a place where there's still a lot of soul in music. It's not LA or New York. Um, and I kind of feel like a fish out of water. I like not being the strongest person in the room with people who are in a slightly different realm than me that I want to learn about. I just want to learn, and it's what I've been trying to do for the last 3-4 years. I'm not just trying to give you the best 16 in the world. I'm trying to write the best song I can. And then so like, why don't I surround myself around singer songwriters, whether it's in folk or whether it's in pop or whether it's in country, still it comes down to, regardless of the genre, is can you write a good song? Um,
Absolutely.
so that's why Nashville was very attractive to me, because I want to be in rooms with people where I don't feel like the strongest. I want to learn from that, and it makes me grow. There's a lot of places I've lived where people were coming to me for how do I do this? How do I go about this? How do I approach that? So it feels really good to put myself in a place again where I feel challenged. And it's not like I'm the one in the room. I'm just someone in the room learning from my surroundings, which I love.
That's amazing. And I think just from what I've seen online, it seems like you found your place, truthfully. Just like you're out there meeting new people. Just the collaboration is going to be there, whether it's
Yeah,
through business people, songwriters, fellow
yeah,
artists, and there's just so much to soak in and learn. And like you said, you're only going to get better from that. So
yeah.
I'm really excited for you, man. And
Thank
I'm
you.
glad you found a happy place down there.
No, I think it's very, for anyone who doesn't know, I grew up mainly in Wyoming, in Jackson, right outside of Yellowstone. So we were not country kids at all. We listened to hip hop. That's where I found hip hop, and like we all wanted to be that. Like we loved that culture, but we did grow up like freaking dirt roads, campfires, getting too drunk in the mountains. Like that's what we did. So it feels like Nashville is very homely to me, because even though my music is very different than country, some of these roots that a lot of these people come from are very similar to mine, um, regardless of how our musical tastes or um, product differ. So it feels like a place it feels like a big city, but it also has like smaller town values. Like everyone's very nice. Everyone like, it's not like New York where everyone's just like looking where they're going and you are just an obstacle in their way. Like it does have that Southern hospitality and, heart to it, which I really like.
I love that.
Yeah.
I this out. I mean, I've like I drove through Nashville on when I did return the van for VR. Good times. um,
What a trek.
yeah, we'll get into that, but the intro, like I kind of gave you an intro right before you joined, but you kind of touched on it, like being from Wyoming, what kind of like made you fall in love with hip hop, or like what kind of drew you to that, even though that wasn't really a place,
Yeah.
a seed, a seed of hip hop.
Yeah. So I grew up a bit in New Jersey. And in those days, I grew up with my dad playing like the Beatles or Billy Joel or Chuck Berry or Bob Dylan in the car growing up. So that's what I knew for a long time, Beach Boys as well. And then when I was a little bit older, still in New Jersey, I got into, Green Day, Jet, Arctic Monkeys, stuff like that, The Killers. Um, kind of started finding my own taste. And then when I moved to Wyoming, my mom like overly prepared me. She was like, you gotta find a country band you like. You gotta, like I sold all my lacrosse gear because it's not really a thing over there, and that was true. That part was true. But when I got there, it wasn't. I mean, there's cowhands, and I did ride horses and stuff like that. And there were kids who were like, "Oh, they're ranch kids." But the town I'm from is very ski bum, skater, um, snowboard, extreme sports stuff like that. And even that's where I don't think I would have ever found hip hop in the way I did if I didn't move to Wyoming, which sounds really weird, but I was from very rural New Jersey, so I was never really exposed to it. But in a lot of ski movies, they use, like hip hop, high energy. I remember one of the first things I found was like Swollen Members, Army of the Pharaohs, Jedi Mind Trick, stuff like that.
Wow.
Um, and then two of my favorite skiers were huge Redman and Method Man fans. And then I got into Redman and Method Man, and then it just all spiraled from there. And it was like, um, I just wouldn't have gotten to hip hop the way I did if I didn't move to Wyoming, which is so weird. But it's where I found it, and it's what we all grew up on. Um, but yeah, I'd say that was my main intro to my love for it, I guess.
That's really interesting, just because if if you would have grew up, it's kind of funny though, just to like think back like how your life unfolds and like where you're from and how these events played out, and it's like it really does shape you, and
Yeah,
who you are, and just like kind of what you choose to like go after. And
yeah.
I from right from what you just said and from knowing you, like it makes perfect sense, you know. Um,
The journey gets you where you're supposed to go
yeah,
somehow,
we're
some way.
we're, we're all trying to get there. It's
Yeah.
what like when like what actually inspired you to start making music then, after, like based off of everything you just said, like was it just like
Um,
experimental, or is it just like I'm gonna do this, like
I was freestyling in high school, like maybe when I was 16, 17, just for fun at parties. Like, we'd get some drinks in us and mess around, throw on a beat at freaking campfire in someone's truck or at someone's house party or whatever. And I just like me and my friends, sometimes it was just me. I remember one time me and my friend Charlie, like, we're driving out somewhere crazy, like south of town. Like being from Wyoming, if no one knows, like everything is far. Everything is like a half hour. Everything is like, especially if we wanted to have a party where it wasn't going to get busted by the overfunded police department that we're from. So um, we would just like, I don't know, one time it was like 40-minute drive and I freestyled the entire way there. And like everyone would tell me all the time, they were like, yo, you should like actually write. And I was always like, I don't know. Like I just have fun with it and it's not really that serious to me. But I went through like my first like high school breakup, and that was like there was some other stuff going on in my life at the time, and I just kind of needed like a vent. Um, so I basically started just ripping beats off YouTube, opening up GarageBand on my computer, and then just recording with my laptop mic. Did that for a while. I ended up getting like a USB mic and used that for a while, and then ended up, I slowly grew with it and somehow got here. I don't know.
that's amazing. I mean,
Yeah.
from there to how many, I would say a number, but I don't know the exact number. How many like streams have you done on Spotify total? It's like 150 million, or is that like way too
It's
much?
around 100. It's around 150. Yeah.
That's so incredible. Like, I mean, I'm sure you
Yeah.
have people tell you that all the time, but it's just like it's just crazy to see the man is, just how you came from there to where you are now, and it just shows that um, it takes time. I mean, you're like
Yeah.
one of the perfect examples of like, you it doesn't really matter, like it doesn't, like, you didn't come from like an LA or New York or like a Atlanta, whatever, that it doesn't matter, where you came from. You made it happen with what you've had, and you just kept going. And that's one thing I really admire about you, and you've always, I mean,
Thank you.
from how long I've known you, you've always been like that. So it shows a lot
No,
about who you are.
no, it's something that I think keeps me, I don't know. It's a weird, because people can like look at moments in my career, but I'm very lucky to have like a bunch of moments that like my whole thing was like just small wins. It wasn't like people can look at some songs and be like, oh, that was about, but like what led to that and what allowed me to be in that position was like a series of small wins. And then that happens, and then a series of small wins that happens. Um, so it's just a matter of like, for anyone who doesn't know, I've been doing this for 10 years, for almost 5 years full time. Um, and yeah, people, you gotta be about it. You gotta love it. You gotta be down for the journey. And, there's sometimes that, especially in the early days, where it's like, you're like, I don't know where I'm going with this, but you just keep going and you speak your truth and you gotta believe that what makes you unique is what will make the right people gravitate to you instead of like an instant, oh, this sounds like everything popping right now. So it must be good. No, I always approached it from the right people will find me. As long as I'm making good art, as long as I'm being honest, as long as I'm being truthful, as long as I'm being me, I'll attract the type of people who appreciate me for me. And I've had songs that have transcended myself, and they are what they are. They took on lives that I didn't intend, but I am very lucky to have a supportive fan base that does love me for me and has allowed me to, venture into different genres, do crazy things with merch, and make things that normally a label would tell me are crazy to make. And my fans have supported it and allowed me to go these crazy directions I sometimes go sometimes. Um, but that all comes from the long game of not being like, oh, let me make a song like everything's pop that, and I'll get inspired by things, but it's just been the ability to be honest and grind and put the work in and, find the growth in every experience and bring that to the music as much as I can.
Absolutely. And I think that's what has, that's what makes you special, is because you're fully you, like no matter what. And whether that's through
Thank you, Ryan.
you, you're welcome. Whether that's through like
That's
your
right.
art, yeah, whether that's through your art or just like how you live your life. And I mean, like, I don't mean this in like, don't take this the wrong way, but like, I think if like someone walked past you on the street, they wouldn't like be like, oh, that dude's like a hip hop artist or a recording artist. You know what I mean? You're just like,
Yeah.
and that's what I think your fans love about you, is because like you'll speak your truth, but also you'll make this great music. That's at least kind of what I've gathered, especially from touring with you and just seeing like, following your journey pretty closely. So kudos.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Gotta keep it authentic.
For sure. And that's how you keep, I think that, I mean, I just think that's how you build something sustainable, whether it's a podcast, clothing brand, music career, you, people can tell through, through that what's fake and what's
100%.
real, like
Yeah.
we just live in too transparent of a world where it's like, oh, we can tell that guy's faking it for sure, like, but
Yeah, like your first music video is on a private jet. You're like, nah, I kind of don't believe you.
yeah, like where's this money coming from? How are you funding this? And it's like the
And
fans,
also,
fan,
where, where do you go from there? It's like, oh, your fan, whoever could be your fan, has already seen you like apparently at the pinnacle of your success. So what's the journey you're actually going to go on?
yeah, like
Where do you go?
where are you going next? Like you shooting a video on the moon, or you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like you going to Mars? Like what? Yeah,
you gotta take people on the journey with you and
yeah,
find, the beauty in the things that it's all about what you choose to, um, I guess, value. And you know, you can value the smallest interaction with someone, and someone may say one thing, and I come up with a whole song about it. But it's like, um, I think a lot of people are enticed by the end goal instead of the journey, and that's not what art is meant to be. And to think that you're gonna blow up off of acting like something that acting like the end product of what you want to be does not work. It's like I talk to people about this with the Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. Like the only way he could get the stone is if he believed in it but wasn't going to use it. Um, and that's like the same thing with music. Like if you're just in it for money and if you're just in it for fame, you're probably not going to get it. And it's like as soon as you don't want it is when those things start to actually take place and you find the actual beauty in the art and try to actually push that and actually love it instead of just loving it for what it can give you.
yeah. I couldn't have said that better. I completely agree with that. It's just you can't be in it for the wrong reasons. I
Yeah,
mean,
people can tell.
they can, and then just like not only that, but eternally, you'll just burn out because it's like, what's fueling that fire? You can't just be fueled by material things and what may come of it. It's like you gotta, because the whole game's a freaking grind. Like
Yeah,
not just music, podcasting, whatever you're doing. Like it's it takes some serious work. And one thing that I've really appreciated being on the other end, like as a creator, it's like, yeah, it's not easy. It's like I've even just trying to get this interview going. It's like trial and error and figuring it out. Like it's like, okay, you just don't know. You learn by doing them, and
Yeah.
you can't get discouraged by things like that. So
Yeah, just immerse yourself, take the leap, and find your way to fly on the way down, I guess.
yeah, and that's the biggest thing too. Like I've been wanting to do a podcast for a long time, just because it's like, one, it's in my name. Like, come on, got to do it.
Yeah.
And then two, it's just like I feel like I have a lot to say and a lot, just from who I am. And that's my goal with the show, is like I want it to be 100%. Obviously, I'm talking with people like you, but like I want it to kind of just be like, when you listen, it's like, oh, like I know Ryan, like that's Ryan for sure. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I just kind of had to like, well, specifically, I talked to Dylan, and then I talked to Bobby Hobart, and he kind of was like, yo, you just got to do it, man. I'm like, all right, you're right. That's so simple. I needed to hear that, and got things together quickly, and was just like, all right, let's do this and see where it goes. But and
Hell
like,
yeah.
I'm not even, the thing is, I'm not even in it for like um uh money or anything. Like I know people say that, but it's just like I'm not expecting to make $1 off this. Like I just want to like show the other side of creatives, and just people, showing every day, like people like you, myself, our peers, like we're more than our job title. We're
Yeah.
there's just so much more to it. Like we're obviously human, but it's just, yeah, it's just an open and honest discussion. So yeah,
No, a little peek behind the curtain, which I think a lot of I get this a lot of times where I'm messaged as if I'm like an entity, or I'm like, I don't have a manager or a label. Like, you're talking to me, and I'm a person on the other side. And then so I think what you're doing is important for, um, of course, to give whatever platform you can to the things that you believe in and appreciate, and at the same time, bring a humanity to yourself and then also others. Um, so that also we can hopefully, you and me, um, inspire others to. I was talking to someone about this today. A lot of times we put like these crazy famous celebrities or artists on this crazy pedestal, like they're not human. But I think it's important to do things like this to like show people that we're all human. Like, we're all just as we also have the same ability to attain the things you dream about. And so like you shouldn't put people on a pedestal like that. Like, we're all human at the end of the day. And I think doing podcasts like this and really sitting down with people and having that honest conversation is inspiring to a lot of people, because it can be like, oh, like he's not just someone who pops up on my Spotify. Like, that's a person. I'm a person. Like, he just decided to approach life like this and go for his dreams in this way. And I can take who I am and do it the same way, because we're all just human at the end of the day. So I think this takes the veil and the weird, sometimes pedestal that people go, oh, well, I can't do that because I'm not that, or I don't have this, or, and it's like, no, we all are just as capable. It's just a matter of doing it. Even for you, like you were talking about, like Bobby was like, just do it. And it's true. Like, a lot of times the hardest thing for people is that first step, because they get in their heads about, things that haven't even happened yet, instead of just making the effort to get there and then decide what to do when they do happen. Um, I don't know. I think what you're doing is incredibly important. Um, I think on a wide range of reasons. Yeah,
well, thank you. I mean, it means a lot to have your support, like, and just for you to jump on this early in the program here. So I mean,
of course.
down the line, I mean, my favorite thing about doing these first episodes is like, 3, 4, or 5, whatever, we can look back and it's like, wow, like we were talking about this, and it's like, you've grown, I've grown.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that's what it's all about right there. But
these little
yeah,
time capsules.
yeah, it's like it's like almost, I mean, because photographers and they capture moments and all that, but like I almost feel like this is a moment in time where it's like we're just sharing our thoughts and letting it fly, because
100%.
damn it, I'm trying to catch myself, because So it's a habit of mine. I always say, like everyone knows, like when I'm trying, it's,
Dude, I do that.
we'll get
I,
there.
people give me. I like going to a really deep thing on my Instagram live, and then at the end I'll go, but I don't know. And people are like, "No, you had a really good." Like, don't end it with "I don't know." But at the same time, it's like it's all. A lot of times what I talk about are potential things or ideas, and it's like I don't know. Like even I was talking to someone about this the other day, and it's like I'm not a flat earther at all, but I've never seen the Earth from afar and seen it as a sphere. I don't know. I
Yeah,
don't
I
know.
haven't either.
I see pictures. There's some video live streams, but I've never myself been there to see it. So I don't know. As a person, as an individual, I don't know. So that's why even like with ideas or like some things I'll talk about, it is funny. Like you say that because there is some truth to why we latch on to our the little things that we say sometimes. There is something deep down, and there's a reason that we approach it from that way. Um, like, even if it sounds like it's just like I don't know, compulsion to go, like when I say, I don't know, uh, there is some truth to it deep down in a subconscious level. There's always a something, you know, I don't know. You see?
I think maybe it's because like we are trying to say something, and it's like you you're not just like not that you're not entirely sure, but it just kind of like puts the stamp like I'm not right or wrong, or
Yeah, like, don't hold me to the
I
grave with
almost said it
this.
again, like because it's but it is funny. It's just another thing that makes us human, you know.
100%.
Yeah.
It's funny how I feel like everyone has like their little like for logic it's semi-automatic. No, I'm kidding. We all have our little compulsion, but there is some truth to the reasoning behind it. I like to think about that because there's always a subconscious thing at play that makes us have a reason for the little human things that we do. It's funny.
I agree. It's just I'm always trying to study like habit and the mind. I mean, one thing I'm really into right now is like psychology, just because it's like I'm always trying to not that, but like I really like to observe people's
Observe, dude.
like why like people do things where there's like
Yeah,
why do they make that decision, or like or I even just like communicating with someone why they would just like not say something, trying to put myself I try to do that a lot where I'm just putting myself in the person's shoes, like, all right, like if I approach someone like this, is this like how would that make that person feel? Or
yeah,
just like trying to be mindful, but it's always I'm trying to like learn the deeper sides of that. Like, okay, maybe it's the way they were raised or developed, or they just don't have that, they have a chemical imbalance in their brain. So
yeah,
it's a very fascinating thing. I mean, it's because I mean we're we say we're all human, but we're all just so different, which like I think kind of makes life fun,
yeah.
just because it's there you go again, but it is what makes life fun.
No, I've definitely been interested in this recently, especially I'm trying to be way more mindful of projection, whether it be me or someone else. Um, so I don't know. I've been in some situations where you see someone's true colors, and you start to see little things from your relationship with them for as long as you had it, and it all kind of lines up. It all makes sense at the end. Like I've known some people in my past who would be like, "Oh, why are you so trusting of strangers and people?" And at the time, you take that as just a question. It's a weird, but it's like, no, that's actually a projection of the way that you see everyone else. It's a projection that you are distrusting of people because you know that you should not be trusted. So it's like your reality must be the overall arcing reality. And so it actually says a lot about the type of person you're dealing with. Um, so I've been even on Twitter. There was a fan who's now like I'm really close with, and he's awesome. But when I dropped Superhuman, he was putting out all these tweets, just ripping it to shreds. And I like DM'd him, and I was like, dude, like, is everything okay? Like, are you all right? He's like, honestly, like everything at home has been really tough. Like it's really hard right now. And that was like eye opening to me because I was like, damn, like how many times on the internet are people just screaming into the ether for help in the form of ripping someone else apart, you know? Um, and that really like, not just on the internet, but in regular life was like, damn, there's, how many people in your daily life are, projecting onto you their insecurities or their fears. It's not even about you.
Right.
It's because I'm an overthinker. So I try to be like,
Yeah, me
why
too.
did that happen this way? And what can I do to, and then the human self-preservation kicks in of like, how can I make sure this never happens again? That's like um, and so I have been learning about a lot of that stuff to be like, all right, there's always things that we have to work on ourselves as individuals, but there's some things that aren't our fault. And regardless of it's being presented to us as our problem, it's a lot of times it's projection.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, when it's crazy to think about just because like some people don't necessarily know how to express like their emotion or how to deal with it. So like they'll like latch out in anger when they're like,
Yeah.
but really they're hurting, or it's just like that's their way of showing they care. And
Yeah.
it's like you don't know. It just it's it's nuts. But you
I've
mean
had people do terrible things, and I thought it was directed at me, but there's things I found out where it's just like you were self-sabotaging. Like your relationship with me was so good that you didn't feel you deserved it, and so you're a self-sabotaging person where you can't even accept something good, and it's like that's next level projection of I need to mess this up because everything always gets messed up, but they don't even take a step back and go, maybe I'm messing everything up, and that's why I feel like I don't deserve this. Um, but yeah, it's very much um, it's very human, and we don't really know what everyone has going on, and it's just important. I hope that everyone can take that away. That a lot of times, what someone's whether it be a hard to deal with parent or a relationship or a friend or sometimes a lot of people these days take things very personally, and a lot of times it's not meant to be. You're not meant to be fired upon. You are just indirectly the product of. You are just indirectly being hurt by their hurt.
yeah, and you don't even realize it. I mean that's why I really try to I mean I try to be very optimistic and kind to people, and that may not always be my truth just because it's like I'm human, I go through things, but I just always try to look like I don't know what A, B, C, X, Y, and Z are going through. So it's like
Yeah,
one, or even just a stranger, like why not do something nice so that might make their day? You don't know what they're going through.
yeah,
I mean, not like I don't know. I'll be kind to strangers, but not like over the top where I'm paying for everyone's meal. You know what I mean? Like just
yeah,
like holding the door open or being like acknowledging their
yeah.
presence. So, but
People just want to be seen sometimes. Like you never know what that can do to someone. Like maybe they feel totally invisible in their life, and you just smile at them or you say hello or thank you, and it's game changing for them. And it feels small to you, but you just made someone's. Maybe you changed the entire course of their week, their month, their year. Who knows?
yeah, absolutely. And that's why you just got to put your best foot forward. Um,
Yeah.
since I think it's funny that you're my first virtual like guest, which is kind of ironic because the way we met was basically kind of through the internet in a sense. So I kind of want to talk about that and just touring. So about 2 years ago, a bunch of good lads got into a van for the first time without knowing
They
each other.
said, "Get in my white van.
Yeah, that's
We're
crazy. I
going
mean,
on tour."
yeah, it's just kind of crazy to think that just like the way things happen, like if how like one decision will lead to like we if I wouldn't have taken that tour, like when Dylan called me, like I probably I I probably would have connected with you somehow, but like we wouldn't have formed the friendship, and I wouldn't have met you the way I did. But
100%.
um yeah, let's just talk about that for me, because that was such a crazy time and a crazy thing, and I thought there's some bumpy rides, but I thought it was pretty well executed for what it was. I mean,
No, we made it happen.
We did. And the fact that like, trying to think how many were there was 7 of us. It was you, me, Dylan, Ryan, John, Cody, Kyle. So yeah, seven of us. But
Yeah.
that's it was a wild time. What were your like if you could look back, what were your initial thoughts going into that? Just like were you just like, oh boy? Because I kind of want to touch upon too, like not the mental health, but just like the insanity of being a touring artist. Because like a lot of people will just see it and they're like, oh, it's a party, like, we're we just go, you're here, like, let's go crazy. But it's like, it's really about, executing the schedule and resting and all that nonsense. But feel free to share your thoughts and opinions on all that stuff.
People don't really get it. I mean, it seems glorious and whatever, and I love touring. I'm someone, I I'm someone where I commit to something and I just do it. I don't. I either, it's there's a lot of things I've done in my last year where I took risks that I shouldn't have, and things that people told me don't go do that, but I had to do it for myself, because a lot of good things have come from my life from taking risks, even if they indirectly happened. Even if the initial risk was a bust. It normally, like, even getting to Nashville was that. It was the indirect product of a bust. Um, so I take the risks. I even with my music, genre wise and stuff like that. Like, I take the risks to, go with my gut, go with my heart, and it usually ends me up where I'm supposed to be. Um, but going on that tour, I was just excited, to be honest. I didn't know anyone. I'd worked with Dylan. I'd talked to Ryan. I think Ryan and I had done a song before that. I forget when Top of the World came out. Um, yeah, Ryan and I had done a song before that. Cody and I didn't really know each other, even though we lived pretty close. We only really found out we lived as close as we did after or during the fact. Um, John and I had never met. We became super good friends. Everyone in that tour, like, we became, you know, spend 2 months in a van, and you usually become, unless you want to kill each other by the end, you usually become pretty good friends.
Yeah, I mean, it's either great success or huge disaster, so
100%.
there's really no in between. But
It's a roll of the dice, but it definitely was something. Like, we had really good dates. We had some shows where it was like 7 people, but we rocked it out. And I'm someone who I try to, and I think everyone else on the tour was in the same mind frame of, I'm going to give the group of 7 the same show I would to, one of my audiences of like 250. Like, I know those people are there and wanted to be there just as bad as anyone at any big show. So they deserve
right.
the same show anywhere. And, there were some nights where we had nice hotel rooms. There were some where we had to freaking bite the bullet and sleep on the floor.
Yeah,
Um, was it the mini? Which one was that? Where it was like we thought that they were trafficking organs. Do you remember
that was in Minneapolis. That was
that?
complete. That was honest. I'll take that was completely my fault. I booked it on hotels.com and like the pictures looked nice, and then we pulled up and it was like kind of like in the hood a little bit, and
Oh
there
God,
there was yeah, there was like blood stains on the floor, like the hallway carpet.
dude,
Yeah,
there were like
but
all these. I'll just say foreign guys with suits on, like, exchanging these foam coolers. It was it was like we all knew what it probably was, but we just didn't want to believe it.
yeah, that was
Oh God.
that was that was that was interesting. But we made
Oh
it. We
yeah.
made it through. It's a story we'll remember for sure. I
Oh,
definitely do.
definitely.
So I was like, I felt bad. I was like, I put not everyone at risk, but just it's like, damn, as the
It's
one
all
in
part of the journey,
yeah,
dude.
yeah, as the one in charge, it's like I should have known better. But sometimes when you're on the fly, it's like you kind of just have to make a decision. It's like
And that's a damn good story. I mean,
it is. It, the one thing I loved about that tour too is like how I guess kind of easygoing it was between because my job could have been um, way more difficult if like you, Dylan, Brian, Dylan, and yourself had like these enormous egos, and it was just kind of like we were all traveling together, and it was like one person wanted like three different things, and it's just like, how are we gonna meet in the middle here? But everyone
Yeah.
kind of like went with the flow, and it just was like whoever was headlining each show, and everyone was a good sport because like they knew. I mean, it's not like we were traveling very luxuriously. Like if we were on a tour bus and just a lot more was at stake, it definitely could have gotten that way. But I
Yeah.
think it was a great moment for everyone, and I mean everyone learned. Like Cody taught me a ton on that, and just
Yeah.
it was a complete team effort, which I fucking loved.
Yeah.
But
No, it was a hell of a time.
yeah, part two coming soon. Well, not a tour, but just like a reunion. I can feel it once I saw
That'd be
John.
something.
That would be so fun, and it's just like
Yeah.
we'll figure it out, but it's got to be safe. Um,
Yeah.
what's interesting though about touring, you kind of do well overseas. Like I think you have a line where you say like I'm probably way off just because it's like
All
you,
good.
you you write the music, I don't, but it said like something like I'm popping off overseas or I'm platinum overseas or something. But what like kind of talk about like that experience, just like how you know going to like the other side of the world and just you have these people just screaming your name and these shows are just so packed out. Like what's that been like? And like what, I mean, I have no
Pretty
idea, but I've never
wild.
been there.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love touring in Europe. Just the hospitality is incredible. Like there's so many times, especially with the Onus tour, that they just make these like homemade meals, and like some of the most bomb meatballs I ever had were in Germany, by just like the show people. I don't know who it was who made them, but my God. And it's just people people are so excited to see you. I don't know. It feels like there's a different approach to music overseas where it is about the content. It's about how it makes people feel, and it's not like, oh, this guy is popping. Like in the U.S., I love. I've toured a bunch in the United States and stuff, but it is very cloudy. It's very much like, oh, I'm gonna go just because this guy has 100,000 Instagram followers. Like, really? Are you into the music, or are you there to be seen there?
Yeah.
And I feel like overseas, it's very much people are there to be there and want to be there. And like you were saying, I do have a really good following in Germany, um, Amsterdam, Sweden, Norway, um, and it's crazy. I don't know. This is what I was talking about earlier. Is like my uniqueness. I never used where I was from as like a handicap. I just owned it and was like, yeah, this is my mind state. This is where I come from. This is what I do. Um, and I think that's a perfect example of like these people like halfway across the world who relate to what I do, and could feel that. And they may come from small mountain towns or whatever over there, but they relate to someone who doesn't come from your normal United States staple doing what I do. um, and I don't know, it's a beautiful thing to tour over there. It's really eye-opening. It's also a big thing of like, I've learned, people are very much the same everywhere. Everyone's different, but as a society and as a civilization, people think that, oh, you'll go somewhere and it's so different and people act so different. But no, we're all humans in a very well connected world where we are kind of the same headspace and mind state these days. Um, so that's a beautiful thing. It's really cool to go out and be like, all right, we're way more connected than we think. Um, and we're all having the same experience of landing on this planet without asking to, and finding our way through it, and finding the beauty where we can in it, and going through our journeys, and regardless of where we're from, everyone's in that same boat. So it's really cool, touring and meeting people, um, who come from very different town or place than I do, who still relate on a human level to what I do.
There must be no better feeling. I mean,
It's pretty crazy.
it just, I mean, I saw it firsthand, just people coming up to you and just telling you how their music saved their life or just how it impacted them. And it's just like to hear that is probably, I mean, that's probably a huge reason you just keep going, you know, just because it's
Well, I
like,
think what's really cool about like my music is there is a lot of honesty and transparency in it, and like I'll meet up with bands and like they're ready to like have their heart on their sleeve to me. Like they'll tell me exactly what like they're going through or something happened. But it's crazy that I've never met them. You know, and you do have the people who come up to me and they're kind of scared shitless about it. Like I was saying earlier, like they kind of see me as a idea or a thing instead of a person. So seeing me as a person, I've definitely had some people get really shooken up by it, and you know, kind of close off until I can talk to them and you know get them to be like, oh, this is like a regular conversation in a person. But a lot of times, people, because of the honesty and the transparency in my music, people are comfortable, you know, coming up to me and in the first 5 minutes, like spilling their whole thing, which is crazy for me. Um, but and in the beginning was kind of like daunting to be like, damn, it's like a whole lot to throw at me right now. But now it's kind of more like, you know, these people feel comfortable with my honesty and truth, that they're comfortable enough to come up to me and within 5 minutes spilling theirs to me, which is a really good sign that I'm doing something right in my music, I think.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's probably definitely overwhelming, you know, just to have people be that open and honest with you, but also it's like, you know, these people care that much that you're, um, they're just, you know, I mean,
And I used to be freaked out by it, but I'm like, I'm already, you put me in my head in your headphones every day and listen to me vent about all my things. So,
right.
um, you know, I have to be as open and accepting as you are of me to you, which I think is important.
It's a two-way
Yeah,
street.
it's a learning experience to know how to connect and understand it. Because you know, at one point I'm just in a recording studio making these songs in my house or in my apartment, and then to go out in the world and have people like yell these things back at me or you know talk to me about their experiences with it is pretty crazy. It's taking an introspective experience and making it extremely extroverted. um, so it is a weird transition, but it's something you kind of grow with. It's like the same thing with your podcast. Like you can't teach anyone road life, you can't teach anyone touring or live performance, you just have to do it. You literally have to get out, get on the stage, regardless of how scary it is, and every day just learn a little bit more and become a little more confident and find your place in it, I guess.
Absolutely. Figure out what works for you, you know, what doesn't, and go from there and just put your best foot forward. One thing I want to definitely talk about before it escapes here, but your new album, you just recently put out a new album.
Yeah.
It's honestly one of the most unique album titles I think I've ever seen, truthfully, just because it's like, I remember when you first dropped or told me about it, I was like, whoa, that what? And I had to Google search what the word meant. And
Yeah.
then when I got that, it was like, okay, that makes perfect sense. So, I mean, if you
Yeah.
just want to talk about what I guess inspired the new album, the new record, or and just kind of, well, you touched about it a bit earlier, just like you recorded about 80% of it in Wyoming, but
Yeah.
yeah, I guess just what inspired it, what made you be like, okay, this is the idea, like let's go. Like, I'm just curious, and I'm sure people out there are curious as well.
Yeah. So originally I had a totally different album name and title or an album name and cover art. When I got to Wyoming, I was like, all right, this is what it's going to be. And it just turned into something totally different while I was there. And I was always interested in the concept of Kintsugi, and the idea. And the more I was working on the album, the more I was like, all right, in this entire year has been me trying to put myself back together. Um, and I'm finding beautiful parts of myself through that. And so it just, the original title and the cover art was Cache Creek, Cache Creek Drive, where my parents live in Wyoming. It's one of the houses I grew up in. We lived in a bunch of houses in Wyoming, but it was the last house I lived in before going to Seattle and then eventually going full time. So I thought I was going to go back and be very like nostalgic and talk about growing up and stuff, and that's what the album would be. But as I looked at my life, the past, I guess, year and a half before I was doing that part of the album, I really realized that um, I had a lot more to say and a lot more to figure out and a lot more to process. Um, and so the album was basically, it starts off very low, rock bottom. Um, beginning of 2019, I got really, really messed up by someone. Um, and there were a couple songs that I was like, all right, this outlays it. And then there were a couple other songs, and I basically started to work on the album to, um, in the process through the healing, do some more healing that I needed. But at the same time, talking about my process of healing and learning how to trust again, eventually learning how to love again. And the funny thing is, by the end of the album, and when it's already out, and the past couple months have happened, I found out I never should have trusted that person anyway. But it's still a beautiful process for my own healing. It was something that, you know, the album helped me. I'm very much of a believer that I used to put a lot of worth on statistics and how many streams it gets or how people respond and how many, but I found that if I can make a song that I'm happy with and that actually has brought me personal growth before it's out, then whatever is said about it or wherever it goes is trivial to me, because it's already the piece of art I needed for my own personal growth. And so if I'm already happy with it, nothing anyone says about it can shake that. Um, there's a lot of people these days, even kids are like, they'll message me and be like, no one's listening to my music, no one cares. And I'm like, well, it doesn't make you happy. At the end of the day, is it actually making you happy? Is it something that you find worth it? Is it something that's making you a better person? If not, you may not be in it for the right reasons. And I've always written from a therapeutic state, especially going back to this album, um, and going back to Wyoming. I felt like I really, really dug into that again, and used the music to be the therapy I needed. And so the whole album is kind of that Kintsugi thing, where Kintsugi is taking broken pottery and um, putting it back together with gold, to make it so that you're highlighting the cracks and also making something more beautiful in the end result of something that was originally broken. And I feel like that's what we all go through. We're all constantly getting broken down, picking up our pieces back, putting our pieces back together. And every time we get some scars, but at the same time, we become a little bit more beautiful and more interesting people than we were before, and learn more about ourselves. If we're open, I know a lot of people who do terrible things and never take the time to actually be self-aware and do the self-healing that they need to. And so they keep making the same mistakes. But I'm someone who personally overthinks, and I want to, you know, make my future better than my present or my past. And so the album is this definite journey of, picking myself up and kind of rising out of the dark and back into the light, I guess.
Wow. I see. I did not, a lot of that, what you shared, I did not even know. But when when I've listened to it, I definitely got what you just explained, just because you just did a great job of carefully crafting it and putting out, your bet, basically, a vulnerable piece of you. And
Yep.
I mean, I did not know what Kintsugi meant until, did I say that right? Kintsugi? No?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
That's right.
Cool.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Until I Googled it, and then everything in my own head kind of made sense. It's like, okay, wow,
Yeah,
that's
because a
special.
lot of songs are very revealing of like the scars that I've had. There's a lot of things that I didn't really go into depth about. Like Dark Side is very much, it's gaslighting. It's exactly how it feels. It's but at the same time you're questioning yourself and you're like, am I the problem? But you're not at the end of it. It's the same thing with Put Me on Ice. It's, my role and why I put up with the chaos and the fearful love that I'm so attracted to. Um, so there's so many things in it where I really deep dove into why I feel the way I do in order to try to reflect and figure out how to heal that. And um, we all play a part in our tribulations, and that's the album is. I felt it very well displays, how people can treat you terribly, but at the same time, you're treating yourself terribly if you allow people to treat you terribly. So we all play a part in any. And I felt like the album was very much it towed that line very well between trying to take ownership, but at the same time, vent the things I needed to and the realizations I came to, and the rebuilding of trust I had to, and I'm still working on with myself and others, you know.
Wow, that's trust is such a big. I mean, I think I even struggle with it from time to time. Just you don't know people's intentions, and when you've people, someone very important to you has broken that, it's tough to like put that trust into others again. You know,
That's another thing. That's what I was talking about with projection earlier. Is it's very important to look at that from being like, did they do that to hurt me, or did they do that to hurt themselves because they don't feel like they deserve whatever you're offering them? And that's a big thing of like a lot of times I've joined a lot of like rehabilitation communities and stuff like that for some of the things I've been put through. And a lot of times people want to, you know, you overthink. You want to think that it's entirely your fault or you were in the wrong or something like that. But when people do terrible things to you, there is no, there's, there's no exception to that. When someone knowingly does something like that, but you have to look at it as, this person isn't trying to hurt me. They literally just don't know how to treat themselves well, and you were indirectly affected by their terrible decisions. Um, and a lot of people want to believe that they were the problem, and we all play our part. But at the same time, when you are, you know, when your trust is destroyed with someone or someone destroys it, um, you got to learn to trust yourself again and know that a lot of times that was a product of projection. It has nothing to do with you. It's just you were indirectly um, affected by their you know toxic projection, I guess.
yeah, and it's just such an interesting thing to think about, just because, like, I mean, personally, with myself, it's like I'm, like you, I'm a big overthinker, and it's like me trying to look at the other side. It's like I don't like I'm honestly scared to jump into like a very serious relationship just because I don't want to be that toxic person, or just like I want to be the best version of myself.
Yeah.
Where, but I've been
or
banged
or
back.
it's sometimes like I feel like you and me probably are a little more trusting of people than normal, and so we believe that everyone is probably of the same mind state, but
Yeah,
the same people are distrusting of people believe everyone around them is of that same mind state.
yeah,
So they believe, oh, if I don't hurt you, then you're going to hurt me. So they think you're just as negative as they are because that's their reality. That's the way they think. It's like we can't even step into, a serial killer's mind to be like, why do you do that? But like he can't even step into your mind and be like, why don't you do that? Because the reality is so different. But that we all want to believe that everyone's reality is our shared reality, when it's not a lot of times. What we were talking about earlier, there's a lot of different things that make up everyone's minds. Um, and people tend to believe that everyone is of the same character that they are, and that's why we all get each other in trouble.
yeah. I mean, I think I mean, it's probably a huge flaw, but like I always try to see the good in someone when I know I shouldn't, just because it's
Yeah,
like I don't know if it's my heart, my good, having a good heart, or just like trying to be a good person. But then, and as I've gotten older, I guess I've learned. I mean, especially in the music business and stuff. It's just like not everyone has that, especially, but not everyone has your best interest at heart.
100%.
Even though you may like think, oh, like yeah, of course, like he's good, and it's just like no, exactly what you said about projection, and it's a tough thing to learn, but like I think you can get better and learn about it if you're just self-aware and kind of go
You got to
through it.
remain you, but also have this little bit of armor up, which I tend to not put up that I should.
Yeah, same.
Um, and it's like you got to have that, and that's why I look at things as like a learning experience to be like, okay, the universe, this sucks, my bad, but
All good.
the universe is probably getting me ready for a bigger decision where I need to have that filter in place to be like, all right, is this whether it have been whether it's maybe a future relationship or a future business deal or some kind of label, who knows? I need to have these filters in order to avoid some huge predicament that I could get into if I do not develop that. Um, and so I always, I'm not a not an orthodox religion type person, but I have my beliefs about, there's energy. There's, the universe has there's a karmic, I guess, process that goes on. And also I think the things that happen to us, I'm a big believer in things happen for you, not to you. Um, it's not like I'm at the receiving end of something. It's like, no, you had to learn from this, and you're supposed to learn from this to avoid a future bigger issue that could come up.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's all a learn. We're just learning and trying. Like decision making is harder than, especially when it's something so important to like your life or your business or whatever. But um, speaking of business, I kind of want to. It's something also I want to talk about too is Moon 52. It's something that I really think is so cool because it's just not a branch of you, you as a artist or person, it's like, I mean, I don't even know how to say it. Like it's a clothing brand, but it's not like it's you
Yeah.
basically. Like this is like everything that you want to create, but it's just not, it's not another merch line. Like it's
Yeah.
like, if you own this, it's like a special piece. So, I mean, if you want to touch on that a little bit, I would love to educate
No,
myself
definitely.
and the listeners out there.
No, it's something I came up with the Moon 52 logo in college, just like in a notepad, just messing around. And it's evolved since then, but um, it's something that I had back then and then ended up trying to do some merch runs with it very early on. Pretty terrible quality, but it was something I wanted to try out, um, and kind of make a something that was like part of the brand, but at the same time, it's able to go grow legs of its own and go wherever it wants to go, create a life of its own. Um, and so it was something for me where in 2018, I decided, all right, I'm going to give it a whole, I'm going to explain it as a brand and as a concept within my album, Superhuman. Um, and so I kind of gave it this background ethos to it. Um, and it's really fun for me. I like to design. Even with music, even with everything I do, I love to bring ideas to life. That's like, I love to see something on paper and then become a tangible object. Um, whether it be a song or whether it be an album or whether it be, I'm doing sneakers. I got hoodies on the way. I'm trying to do coats. We just did the first sample for that. Um, and I'm doing jeans, always doing hoodies, crew necks, t-shirts. And it's something where I can kind of, it still lives within the abstract universe, I guess I've created, but it has the capabilities to, become whatever it wants to be. And allows me to focus on more of, instead of just slapping an abstract logo on a t-shirt, or it's something where I can actually go in and be like, all right, let me experiment with materials. Let me experiment with concepts. Let me experiment with patterns, and just really look at it as a clothing brand as opposed to being something that's just like abstract branded. It allows me to really get creative with, I guess, my merchandise, and also with the hopes of it becoming, like I said, its own thing that is still connected to me, that but has a life of its own. No, so it's fun. I love Moon 52 as much as I love doing my abstract stuff. It's been really good to me now because I've been through a lot in the last couple months, and I'm making music, I'm writing hooks, but my mind's not fully there. So it's been really fun to be like, all right, I'm gonna stay productive and creative and still be designing and making merch and, making samples. And, there's some things I previewed that who knows if they'll come out this year or next year. I'm always planning ahead with that stuff. Um, but it's a fun alternative creative outlet for me, I guess. And I've always loved, I grew up loving, there's a big company from Colorado called Gibberish that I love. And just having my own clothing company was a big thing for me. Even before music, I was like, I think that'd be awesome if I could do that. So it's really making like a childhood dream. One of my first things was to like have a ski company. So eventually I'm hoping that maybe I could get into, pressing my own skis, and who knows with Moon 52. There's a lot of cool things that I think I can do with the Moon 52 brand that I normally couldn't do with just slapping my artist name on it and calling it a day. Um, but it's just it's a fun side venture, and I really enjoy it. And it's something that, I'm as passionate about as I am with my music, but it's just in a whole different realm and allows me to have this little outlet when the music gets to be a little much.
I love it. And I think it's just phenomenal just because like it almost showcases like how creative and talented that you are just as a person, not just like as a
Thank you.
musician, just because it kind of like puts you in that different light. It's like people just like kind of how like you're seeing all these different ventures from artists or professional athletes. It's just like now
Yeah,
like Abstract and Moon 5 too. Like Abstract is a business owner, not that
yeah,
your music is not a business, but there's like something else there that's
yeah.
not completely with the artist brand. So that I'm a huge fan of that, and just I
Thank you.
love I just love seeing the samples. It's cool, man. You're doing it. You're figuring it
It's
out.
exciting, dude. It's really cool, especially with some of the newer stuff. Like for a long time, it was like, oh, well, I'll like screen print or embroider this on. But like with the jeans, it's like, all right, I'm gonna give you my dimensions. I literally like fused two of my favorite jeans of all time. I am, for anyone who doesn't know, I do love clothes and I do love sneakers. I'm a definite sneakerhead. Um, and so I've always had an affinity for clothing and fashion, and um, it's definitely something where it's kind of a long time dream that I'm slowly um, getting to bring into fruition, I guess.
Yeah, and I mean,
Am I
kind of
cutting out, Tripod?
you were like pixely, so I was like trying to figure it out, but you're good now. Oh, there you go. Sorry, man. I I
Okay.
don't want to cut you off what you're saying, but
Oh, it's all good,
we
man.
got we got the audio. What do you call it? I mean, I think we kind of touched on it briefly, like all over this conversation. But one thing that I think is really important, obviously, is mental health. I don't want the whole conversation
Yeah,
to be about it. Kind of, that show is all about like it kind of goes where it goes. But you being an artist and a business owner, like how does that play a role? Because I know for a fact, and you know this, that mental health is not talked about in the music industry whatsoever. It's just kind of like you're an artist, you're a freaking machine, you're not a human being, like you play,
yeah,
especially at the major scale. It's like, all right, you're a cash cow, go play 200 shows a year, and it's like that's probably a lot to
yeah.
deal with. But I would just love to hear your side if you're open to sharing. Obviously, if you're not and don't want to be that personal, that's totally cool, and I respect that.
No, I definitely. I mean, you look at. Let me know if I cut out at all, Ryan, because
Okay.
it's kind of it's weird. I'm pixelating. Um, no, like even you look at a Avicii dude, and they like drove that man into the ground. It's
Yeah.
crazy, and it's super sad because Halsey has a song about that. Like, they kind of treat you like a machine, like just you know, spit out the sad stuff, give it to us, and it's like at the same time, it's like, do you understand that there's actual pain behind us? Do you understand that there's actually like a person on the other end who is actually going through that to create this art that is looked at as just a product? Um, I don't know. It's sad the way that the bigger you get, the more you're looked at. Like I was saying earlier, is less of a human, more of like this entity. And people forget that that's a real person behind the screen or the limelight.
Yeah. I mean,
And
it's
so I think it's something where, especially for me, wait, sorry, right pod. You're cutting in and out.
I am now. I'm. Am I going to the Pixel
Yeah,
universe?
you're like,
Adam Sandler, are you there?
you're
Josh
just,
Gad. Oh man.
Your audio, like, will your face will move like this, and then like this, and then.
I'm trying to create
Should
dubstep over
we
here.
restart and then cut together?
Yeah, we can do that. I'll start a new
Hey.
and then we can try that question again just because like I think it's an important one. And I mean I think we got bits and pieces of it, but
Yeah, yeah,
obviously
yeah.
the people deserve the full thing, you know? So
100%. All right,
um
let's restart her.
okay. I'm gonna end this and then I'm just gonna send it again, I guess. So bear with me.
All right,
We are recording. Sorry about that, folks. You know, technical difficulties, paying all
we're
these.
back.
Yeah, back better than ever.
Yes,
Um,
sir.
yes, sir. What do you call it? Yeah, gotta love technology. Paying thousands of dollars for MacBooks and they kind of crash and burn on you after a little bit. Come
It's
on,
weird too because it was just like after a bunch of time, it was like, all right, we're done with you. We don't
right?
care anymore.
Like I thought everything was super smooth up until
Yeah,
that. Um,
it's just like we gotta use our bandwidth for other people. Y'all been talking too long.
yeah, I mean, whatever. Screw them.
To
But
whoever on Zoom is monitoring us, stop it, dude.
yeah, we're not that cool. Like, come on. We had a good conversation, but like you can probably find better use of your time at the moment.
Yeah,
So
you Zoom moderators.
there's
Or
probably other people on Zoom Pro that where they're having like 100+ people meeting, and then they're like, oh, let's mess with these two idiots, just like having a convo about.
take their bandwidth, dude. Take it.
We don't want your bandwidth. Actually, yes, we do. Um,
Oh lordy.
yeah, jeez. Um,
But you're talking about mental health
yes,
and
being an artist and dealing with mental health. What that's like, and just because you touched on it earlier, like you take ginormous risks, with your creative side and all that, and it's probably not always the easiest thing, and then you have your personal stuff. So I mean,
yeah.
just feel free to touch light on that if anything.
I don't know. It's like I was saying before we got cut off, like I'm definitely not in this boat, but RIP, Avicii got just driven into the ground. They were doing crazy amounts of stuff, but he was being treated as a product. They weren't like, oh, this is a person at the end of the day. It's like, no, let's just see how many club appearances we can do, how many interviews, how many radios we can hit. And it drove him into the ground. He literally, you basically drained a human being of, you know, that's not normal. That's
No,
that's not good for anyone.
not
And
at
I
all.
think the big thing is totally different now. Is like we're all being cooped up, and a lot of us artists get a lot of inspiration from going on tour and meeting the people who are hitting, and um, getting to see different places and experience different things. And we've kind of all been cooped up, like staring at the same walls for a while, and that can drive someone pretty nuts, whether you're an artist or not. Um, and it's definitely a strange state the world's in, and I think for some people they've been able to grab it by the horns and buckle up and buckle in and use it to their advantage and use the time and whatever. A lot of people who normally wouldn't have been a full-time artist can use their unemployment and just put that all, if you were smart, into your art and all that time into your art. But for people who do it all the time, especially even people like me, like I haven't gotten to really be out in the world and see how the music is affecting or really hitting people and talk to the fans and experience that. And it's definitely, it feels weird. There's definitely this weird disconnect where I do love doing, even I was saying on Twitter, like I want to be in more podcasts because, I still want to talk to and communicate with people, at least if it's in some way, some kind of behind the scenes. I've been doing a bunch of Instagram lives. Um, so I think it's important also just for even my own sanity. It's like, all right, you know, let me talk about how I'm feeling personally so that everyone doesn't feel so, weird by their current reality because we're all in the same boat. We're all have people ask like, when are you going on tour? And I'm like, when anyone can go on tour.
Yeah,
Like it's just a widespread thing, and everyone's going through it. And I hope by us talking about it and the more Instagram lives I do, and try to make people feel like, hey, like we're all in this together, and it's just something that's happening across the board. And yeah, it sucks. And it allows a lot of our demons to creep in when we're just kind of subjected to our homes and can't really do our normal schedule or whatever we do to cope with our normal everyday. But at the same time, we should reassure people to know that, hey, everyone's in this, and what you're a part of is actually an extremely unifying shared reality, um, unfortunately. But there is that silver lining of we're all uh, experiencing the same little glitch of life, I guess.
Yeah, I think you said that perfectly. Just because I think we're all, I don't care who you are, we're all in the same boat now. We're all in the same playing field. We're all, you know, walking the same steps. There's no getting around it. I mean, someone could have more money, whatever, but it's like, you still got the pandemic going on. You're still a part of this world. And I think for the first time, people are very aware of that. And I mean,
Yeah,
I don't know if, I just think there's been a huge decrease in the celebrity culture and gossip. Like, yeah, they still run, the tabloids still run with it, but like, I feel like a lot of people just don't really care about that as much anymore. Just because it's like, it's not relevant, you know?
hopefully it brings people. It's bringing people a little more back to earth a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean,
You gotta hope.
yeah, that's hope, pray, believe that better
Hopefully,
days are ahead. At least that's the optimist in me. And some friends I talk to, they're just like, I mean, a couple of friends of mine, I think I think I was talking to Chris Buxton, actually. We were talking,
yeah,
he's just, we talked about just like how COVID has actually helped us a lot, just like him
yeah.
personally, to like develop as a person. And even myself, just because it's like, I don't feel there's a social pressure to like, I wouldn't say I'm definitely not a people pleaser, but just like, if I get invited to something, it's like, all right, sure. But like now it's like, there's more like, you're not guilt tripping me about like going, there's no guilt trip or any of that. It's like, you can live life on your own terms. And I feel like a lot of people are on that wavelength. I don't
Yeah.
know if you think that, but
No, I definitely agree. There's also like a whole lot of, I think, especially in social media, it's like people post about all this crazy stuff they're doing, and people get like this crazy FOMO about it. And there's still people being reckless and doing whatever the hell they want. And but at the same time, it's like we're all like, nah, I don't really want to do that. That seems dangerous and uncalled for. And I think it's less of that like. Hopefully, it's less of that like comparison of reality, because our reality is kind of shared now. At least um, the people who are not being reckless about it. But it is this unifying moment for a lot of people to be like, all right, let me just get in touch with myself again. I hope.
yeah, I think I don't know. It took definitely lows to get there for me, at least. Like, I was kind of a mess at the start of this,
Yeah,
admittedly, just because like I just didn't know how to cope with what was to come, because
yeah,
I was, selfishly, I was hoping to have a great year, and the, follow up the profession that I kind of chose. But then I kind of fell into this mindset of like, I'm just going to ride where life takes me. Like, I'm going to make my decisions and put my best foot forward, but I'm not going to stress things that are completely out of my control. You know,
yeah.
I know I got good
No,
people
it's
around,
important.
or people I can talk to. So we're all good. Um, yeah, it's a wild time, but I hope
Agreed.
anyone out there that's listening that may not feel like there is a light at the end of the tunnel, that, this is proof that there is, just because we're here talking and about it. And, you're definitely not alone. So
I mean,
just,
I think my hope is a lot of things we took for granted. I hope people are
Yeah.
more down to experience now. It's like, oh, I could do that next week, or I'll do that someday. I'll check that freaking museum out, or I'll go to that show at some point. And now it's like, those opportunities that you took for granted, you wish that you went out and, saw those things, did those things, hung out with those people. And hopefully it's definitely this wake up call for everyone to be like, you know what, life, as far as we know, it depends on what you believe in, but it only happens once. And so when we are given these opportunities, instead of thinking that they're just run of the mill and, tomorrow's another day and we could try it then, you never know when this type of thing could hit again, even when things are normal again. So hopefully people kind of grab that by the horns and go, all right, I'm living life. I'm doing the things that I wanted to do, and I'm going to go out and visit the places I always wanted to, because who knows if this happens again. Or, it is a wake up call. It shows us everything we took for granted, that everyday life that we were just like, oh, this is just life. It's like, no, that's a blessing that that was life now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I mean, personally, that's just kind of where I was at. I mean, I like nature, but I never really explored it. But I've been going hiking and camping as much as I could lately, just because like it's so fun to be out in that. So I encourage anyone to just, as long as it's safe, to take that opportunity or leap of faith. Because like, why not? I mean,
Yeah.
if this year has shown, like, yeah, there's not, we take it all for granted. We do. It's like
Yeah.
we get so caught up in it. But um, yeah, that was a great answer. I think, or no, one of the final questions I really have is just, dude, how does it feel to be on Monday Night Football? That must be a surreal experience. I know that's maybe not a lot of your fans or just people that have heard your name in passing know that, but I mean, I guess touch upon that feeling, just because like that's like, it's not like I don't know how to, it's a huge moment, like, but it's not like Monday Night Football is going to turn into just like I don't know. It's not
No, yeah.
it's not like a extremely life changing moment, but it's also like a recognition of like all my hard work is paid off. Like,
Yeah.
so
No, it's cool to have lived in like these underground things of like I show up on, big YouTubers, blogs and their game edits and stuff like that. But to actually be on something that's like nationally syndicated on TV, just that's pretty wild. It's something where um I like football, I like team sports. Like I was saying earlier, like I grew up in an extreme sports town, so X Games was the Super Bowl for me. That's just who I am. Um, but it's still pretty damn crazy to be like, all right, something I made. Um, one of my friends who I became friends with in a white van a couple of years ago, I think we landed on, Monday Night Football on a nationally syndicated prime time, multiple times. I think they've used it maybe 6 times now, 3 different games. I don't know.
something like
Um,
that. I texted Dylan, I think, yeah, on because I was waiting to see, and they did it for week 2. I know they did all the week 1 games, so that's super exciting. It's just
it's
what a
super
moment.
cool. It's also just like a testament to like more for me. I'm very fed by. I talk to people all about this all the time. Is like I'm very, very lucky to have in my career had like multiple moments. Some people get one and they're like, oh, this is great. This is crazy. But I'm very lucky to had like, a bunch of moments. And I know that I can continue to have moments um, as I progress. And it's something where I get something and I'm excited, but at the same time, it just makes me hungry. It's like I want to be in Skate 4. I want to, do a Marvel trailer. I want to have that music. It's like, all right, we did Monday Night Football, and I'm a proven hypothesis that we can make music for that. So, what else can we do? It's for me, it's like this big proven. I just we proved a hypothesis. So that can be replicated again in a lot of spaces that I would lose my mind about. Um, so it's super cool, and huge shouts to like Out of Sight, Rich, 83 Sound, Dylan, Cook Classics. It's super cool, and I think there's a lot of ways we can take it. I'm very excited to try to explore this whole sync world and see what I can do and be part of things that um, mean a lot to me and a lot of other people. Uh, So yeah, it's just this. It's a big thing, but for me, it's like this small proof of a hypothesis that I'm like, all right, I can do this again, and I can do this bigger, and I can do this in realms that would make the kid in me extremely proud of who I've become. Stuff like that. Um, so for me, it's always like there's just I gain things and I just hunger for the next, which you know I'm here tatted on my hand because I need to remember to live presently and be thankful for that opportunity. But it also makes me hungry to be like, all right, I can do this and I can take it even farther if I've already done this. Um, so I'm just excited. I want to see what we can do.
Absolutely. And I think those bigger moments, the Marvel trailers, the Marvel, all that stuff, it's definitely happening. Like just when it's a matter of when, but
I
that
believe
just,
that too.
yeah, I mean, just a huge congrats to all you guys. I mean, I think that happening for you and Dylan and Out of Sight and Cook, like the coolest part about that for me is like you guys, it was a full collaboration, it just wasn't like, I mean, there's no like music business guys really in it. It's like you guys are all artists, and I mean Cook mostly does producing, but like it's all the creative side of it, and then having that fruition. It's not like there was like big label heads or any of that. It's like that's literally Out of Sight's label, and the
Yeah.
fact that you guys all got to work together is just incredible to me. So
That's the thing is like a lot of people think you need that label deal, you need that person in your corner, you need that cosign, but it's like no, just work with people who you believe in,
yeah,
and
why not
good
work with
things
your
can
friends?
happen. Yeah, make it happen with your friends, make it happen with people you believe in, make it happen with people who share your reality and your outlook. And things will happen. It's you gotta take it into your grab it by the horns and not wait for opportunities to come to you, but create them with people that you believe in and who believe in you. Um, I think that's incredibly important, and it definitely I like that. It is a testament to you know just a smaller band of people who are like we got. He placed a bunch of other records on Monday Night Football too. Like it's just this smaller entity that is pulling these massive strings. That is, it's a David and Goliath thing that I love.
Me too. I'm all about the underdogs, and
Yeah,
a lot of our peers and just yourself, like you're no longer going to be underdogs soon, but you'll always have that mentality just because you know what it's like to be on the other side. So
yeah,
it's awesome.
definitely wild.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not saying this is the point in the conversation where it gets awkward because we could. I think me and you could talk for hours, but also it's like I want to respect your time, and I don't want to. I'm not Rogan. I can't be giving the people 4-hour podcast unless you're down with it. But it's yeah. I don't know. I'm kind of spacing out on what to ask next, but I
Let me
guess
ask you a question.
please, yeah.
All right. What do you think has been the biggest learning experience from doing the podcast
Put
so
me on the
far?
spot. I would say probably organization and like really going above and beyond to like care about like the other people, I guess. Cause like I would say with organization, just because it's like the first few I just really flew by the seat of my pants. Just like they're
Hmm.
my three of my good friends in the area, and it's just like, yeah, guys that come over, we'll just record them. And if I would have been more organized with it and execute, I mean, well, there's the thing. The way these came out, it's like people probably on the other side were like, wow, like everything looks great, and but like on the other end, it's like I was like kind of in like a panic, kind of like, shoot, like, all right, we're about to record episode. I'm nervous as hell, like, but it turned out great, and the first few turned out great, but to me, I guess I just think I could have been more organized, I guess, but maybe not. I don't know. Maybe that's just me being critical, but
Yeah.
um, I, you know what? Those are two great answers, but I'm going to say the technological part of it, because like I didn't really know much going in, and like now I'm like I feel you know much more confident and comfortable. Like, I mean, yeah, I'm just using GarageBand, but even doing the virtual interview, or even just like going to someone's shop or store yesterday to set up. all my equipment and, cause it's like, they don't know, I tell them, hey, I'm let's do it. Let's do the podcast. And it's like, okay. And then it's up to me to make it look good and, um, sound, just make sure everything's on point because I want to put out the best I can. I mean, I shot visuals yesterday and I, you couldn't even, looking back, you can't even see the other, one of the guests. It's like you see the back of my head and like the other guy. So it's like you're just learning as you go. And I should have like listened to. Well, I didn't realize what he was saying. He was like, you can put like the tripod on a stand. I'm like, but I was like, I was kind of like rushing in my mind, just like, okay,
Yeah.
like I want to, I've been here for 20 minutes since I got here, and I know we've been chatting, but like, I mean, I respect their time because like they're staying after hours just to talk with me, and I know it's mutually beneficial, but it's just it's just like I don't want to be extra, even though, but
Yeah.
I should, if I should be extra if like get the best version of the show.
Sometimes you have to be. I'm like that
Yeah.
too, where I definitely don't want to be an inconvenience, but at the same time, it's like I want to get it done right. When you've seen me on stage, sometimes I
Oh,
will
dude,
crack and
love it.
tell someone what the hell I
The
feel. And
the sound guys, yeah, a lot of the venue
I'm a
sound guys,
super passive person, but if you mess
yeah,
with me, even with last like with some relationships, it's like I'm a sweetheart and I'm to a damn fault. But if you do me wrong,
you'll know about it, yeah,
I'll respond in a way that you know reflects what you've done to me, and I'll let you know. But it is hard sometimes towing that line of being the nice guy and being like, yeah, yeah, I just want to, go with the flow and let it, sit as it is. But sometimes you have to do those things where it's like make the hard call to be like, this may be annoying and like a minor inconvenience right now, but to get the best product and quality possible and make my opinion and creative, you know, perspective known, I have to put my foot down right now. So that's like even what we were talking about earlier is like, yeah, being a trusting person and wanting to see the best in people is sometimes you need to have a little bit of that filter and that armor. You got to maintain and not let things change you, but at the same time, you do need to be a little more. And I struggle with this. You got to put your foot down in the right places. But I think that just comes with time and learning, how best to read the situation and what's best for the situation, I guess.
yeah, I completely agree, and I think the only place that I'm really only been able to do that consistently is like on tour, just because I go in my mind like I know it's at stake, and it's just like the people that are there because of like us. So not that I'm gonna be a dickhead about it, but like if you're not trying, it's like you gotta be the aggressor sometimes, even though I'm not always the aggressor, but
Dude,
there's a
even
time and
in,
place for everything,
yeah, I'm like one of the nicest dudes. I mean, not to toot my own horn, but if people know me, they
You're a
know
very
that.
nice guy. Yeah.
Thank you, iPod.
You're welcome.
But like even we were in Stanhope, New Jersey on tour, and our friend Gatsby was playing, and there was just there weren't many people there at all. There weren't.
No.
But like this guy is trying to perform, and this whole family is just speaking loud as they can at the front. And I was like, I literally walked up to them, and I was like, "Yo, like have some respect. Like I know it's not a packed out show, but like you came to perform. It was one of the openers before him. And I was like, you came to perform. People sat and watched you. Like sit and watch this dude. You may not like his music. You may not even know who he is or anything, but like have the respect to shut up and freaking listen. Um, and sometimes you gotta being a nice guy sometimes requires us to be the bad guy, like in the overall in someone's perspective. But for the greater good of it, sometimes you got to be like, let me put my foot down and tell you what the hell is up.
I couldn't have said it better. I think
Yeah,
it's all about balance, as just with life, and as the Mad Titan Thanos says, balance. Since we're on that
yeah.
subject, though, okay, favorite Marvel villain and hero. Like if you had to name one or two, because I know it's extremely hard.
Oh yeah, yeah. Gotta say Thanos it was my favorite. I loved it. I've been a big fan of like Thanos comic books. He's like he's this very interesting case study of like this bad guy who wants to do good. Like normally it's like a good guy who does some bad, but like he's this 100% flip of that, of like this terrible guy who wants to do good and thinks he's in the right, and it's just such an interesting psychological manifestation of a villain that I do love. Um, and then, gosh, Iron Man is heavily up there for me, especially because of the films. I'd say as a kid though, like comic book wise, was definitely Spider Man. Um, I can't say I grew up reading Iron Man comics, and I think I'm in a similar boat by a lot of people. Like his fame really came from the way that RDJ portrayed him and became him.
Completely
Um,
agree.
he was such an offshoot B-side character that set off the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe, that you never would have thought. But the way that it was done and created, he's just an incredible character. But I'd say like kid in me would say Spider-Man, but like the grown, you know, man who appreciates the films and the way it's been done and a good narrative, Iron Man for sure.
Those are some great answers. I think what the films have done a great job of is just presenting these characters in new lights. Like my favorite, like right now. I mean, I could say Iron Man. I mean, I love Robert Downey Jr. and just he he's amazing. You know that's not even doesn't do him justice. But a character that I really love and that would have found out about if it wasn't for the movies. But I love Doctor Strange. I just find him
Me
so
too.
fascinating because he's so different and arrogant, but also like so extremely smart and just I don't know. But he's also
He's
flawed
like the
too.
Yeah, he's like this quintessential like it's kind of like the whole COVID thing. Like honestly, like he takes everything for granted, and then it's all ripped away from him. Then he has to figure out how to use these newfound gifts that he's had in a way that is humbling and not self-serving. Um, I think it's a beautiful arc for someone. Sometimes we feel like we're on top of the world, and we need that smack of reality to be like, damn, like, I gotta be humble. I gotta, be a little more grounded in my approach to life. And I feel like we all do that, if you're any self-aware person. Um, and so I do love his arc. I think it's a beautifully executed manifestation of an experience that a lot of us go through.
Yeah, I completely agree. And just his whole battle with Thanos on Titan and Infinity War. That like
So badass.
yeah, like just it was looking having rewatched the movie several times. It's like it's such a short glimpse. Like I think the fight is like 2 or 3 minutes maybe, but like it's just so epic and that for me was like the stamp of like it's like yep, Doctor Strange is it. He's the guy. But I mean,
No,
I
it's
do love his
definitely,
his movie too.
uh, yeah. I watched that scene, and then I always like, I'm like, oh, I should go watch Doctor Strange. Because I did love Doctor Strange originally, but after Infinity War, it was just, then also, yeah, mainly Infinity War. I was just like, damn, he's just so badass. I love the original movie, but that always makes me want to go rewatch it when I see like that scene. It's just incredibly well crafted.
I agree. I think you know, it's a whole nother rabbit hole we can go down just because
Yeah,
The Marvel Cinematic Universe, which we haven't had any content from this year. You know,
WandaVision's coming,
I'm so excited for that.
dude. It
Uh,
looks so nutty.
I
A
love.
lot of people say it'll feed into Doctor Strange too, which I really hope.
I think it will because I think she might be part like a villain because like she's like going full, House of M crazy kind of.
Yeah,
But obviously Marvel's gonna kind of put their own twist on that. But
yeah.
um, yeah, it's gonna like
I think it's going to be in a very interesting study into like the things we do, the crazy mind games we play with ourselves to avoid letting go of anything. You know, that's what it seems to be. It's like it seems to me like Wanda just literally is creating a reality that she can live in, that she can live with. Um, and I feel like anyone who's lost someone close to them, whether it be death or a relationship or something, we do create crazy things in our mind to like deal with the idea of letting go. And I think seems that's the approach they're taking, which I do love. People don't understand probably, we do, you and I do, but like our love for Marvel, like and but if you really watch and you really take in the storylines, it's even what I was talking about with Doctor Strange, what I'm talking about with this, it's like these very well crafted, of course, fantastical and science fiction worlds, but they really do an incredible job of capturing these incredibly human experiences that we all go through, in these larger than life ways, but still they're beautifully Shakespearean in the way that they kind of capture this human experience in something that's awe-inspiring, I guess.
Absolutely. And they just make things like these characters that should not be relatable whatsoever, and they make them almost human in a sense. They flawed, I mean, obviously the first Iron Man, but like I really saw that in like the first Avengers movie, just because it could have easily just been a bunch of action, but like the team fell apart and they came back together and then kind of fell
The
apart. And
arguing, the
yeah,
playing off of the trauma with Loki and stuff like that. It's all things that we all do to each other, and it's incredibly human, but it's done in this fantastical way that I think there's some people who don't know how to see that past there's like, it's just robots and
heroes.
people
Yeah,
fighting and superheroes. I'm like, it's not really that. It's much, if you're open to experiencing it on a narrative and a human condition level, it's extremely poignant.
yeah, I agree. It just
No,
I wish people that don't see that I could do the whole um ancient one, like open your mind, and then like they go out of their body. uh what a time that would be. But
no, I mean, that's part of the thing that makes anything special to us is some people don't understand it, and that's fine. But for us, it means a lot, and that's what makes it a beautiful thing. Is like we relate to it, and if everyone related to it, it probably wouldn't be as special. It's the same thing with music. Like if everyone loved it, if you find this new artist that no one knows about, it's like, oh, it's exciting because no one knows about this, and you're like, oh, I'm onto something that like I relate to that is not a part of the mainstream consciousness. Um, I feel like that's the weird thing with comic books is like a lot of kids grew up as nerds and put down and stuff like that, and now like these are the biggest movies in the freaking world, and now all these kids are like, where the hell have all of you been? Like this is what we've all been into for forever. And you guys used to bully us for this exact thing. Now it's the highest grossing movies in the world. There you go. Like, oh my God.
it's cool to be nerdy now.
Yeah.
It's shout out.
Definitely true.
Uh,
Loon, you're okay. Sorry, Luna's crying.
oh, um, I guess where I'll end with that is, do you have any closing thoughts? Um, just like anything you want to say to any like people listening, or just plugins, for you, or what, just whatever. I mean, whatever's on your mind and you want to end the show with. Yeah, I kind
I
of leave it.
guess I guess I'm just super thankful for you having me, and I'm excited to see where this goes. It's been super cool to see, what it's become so far, and I'm just excited for you, Ryan.
Thank you.
Um, yeah, no, it's super cool to see, and I think it's cool to bring your perspective to all these people in the industry who or people who people may not know about very well, or give people kind of a backstage look at some of these people who they may see in some light. Um, or maybe people that they don't even know about that are a part of a industry or a job that they dream to do, and give them that perspective on what it really means to be about that and have that. um, I guess Top of the World, Lean on Me is out right now with Dylan Reese, Cook Classics, with some work by Cryo as well, my main guy. um, Got my new album Kintsugi is out, 16 tracks. If you want to do the whole thing, you go Something to Write Home About, my 2016 album, Superhuman 2018, and then Kintsugi 2020. And it's all one cohesive storyline if you guys want to check out the whole thing. There's also a short film called Superhuman, which is on YouTube, which precurses the Superhuman album. So it's a whole experience if you guys want to check it out. A lot of stuff coming from Moon 5 too. I got sneakers, I got jeans, I got hoodies, I got crew necks. I'm doing a bunch of beanies. Just a whole lot of cool stuff coming out of that. So I hope everyone checks it out. And for anyone, hopefully some of the stuff we've talked about with quarantine has helped you out, helped you feel like your reality isn't so, foreign and removed and isolated as it may feel. Keep your head up. Hopefully we all come out of this, like we were talking about, to be more grateful of everyday life and what it actually means to live and take, those experiences for what they are. But yeah, just keep your head up. Everyone's going through it. You're not alone. And I appreciate you tuning in.
Well, there you have it, folks. Ladies and gentlemen, Abstract. Thank you so much for coming on the
Much love,
program.
Ripod.
Hey, much love, man. I can't wait till we get to link up in person again. But I can't thank you enough for coming on the program and show and just being an open book and being you. So I'm sure people will appreciate that, and I appreciate you. So can't thank you enough. But till the next time.
Thank you, Ripod. I'll talk to you soon.
Absolutely.